Hi, I'm Kelly Lindsay. Welcome to Unit 8.2. We're going to talk about an approach to caregiving within the context of mind-body healing, rather than the mechanics and minutia of caregiving. It's not that those aren't important, but they're beyond the scope of this course, and it's because that ground is actually very well covered in the many books available about caregiving, of which these are among them. Some of these are practical, situation-based guides. Others offer inspiration and guidance based on the personal and professional experience of the authors. But what is often lacking in these books is any general guideline on how to even approach the idea of caregiving. How do we even begin to wrap our minds around something like caregiving, especially when it's usually something that is so abruptly thrust upon us? Over the past 7 weeks, we've seen how thoughts, ideas, and intentions can manifest themselves in our daily life. Well, the same can be said of words, which brings us to what I consider to be one of the biggest stumbling blocks for a caregiver, and that is the word caregiver itself. So let's take a look at a definition from an online dictionary. A person who gives help, protection, and/or direct care to someone. So that's great. That sums it up nicely. This would be fine if it were not so tightly tied in with that maxim that we've all grown up with, and that has become part of our cultural DNA, that it is better to give than to receive. And that too by itself is also great, but within the context of caregiving, the give seems to become huge and often leads to a common caregiver ailment of fatigue, or even worse, a sense of martyrdom. And neither one of these is helpful for the patient or the caregiver. So while we have the dictionary out, let's try out a different word. Let's try out caretaker. Now I like this one better, partly because it makes it clear that we're acting on somebody's behalf instead of their beck and call. And I especially like it because of the emphasis on its temporary nature. The only problem is that the connotation of take is even worse than give, and its association with greediness makes it completely unattractive. So I've settled on the word care tender. Tend is defined as to apply oneself to the care of, watch over, and to have or take charge of as a caretaker or overseer, and to manage the operations of, to mind, and the ancillary definitions of to cultivate, foster, and particularly insightful, to listen. These help place the patient-caregiver relationship in a much broader context. And that context is that we are not care-tending a who. We're care-tending a what that includes the who. And this brings us to the 3 components of care-tending that are the subject of the next 3 presentations in this unit. First, we'll talk about the what, the healing environment. Then the how, through direct participation, which helps keep both the care tender and the patient healthy. And the why, because care tending offers an effective opportunity for personal transformation by the care tender. So to summarize our journey through the dictionary in delineating this approach to care tending, we're going to take the generosity of spirit found in caregiving and the transitional temporary nature of this calling from caretaker, and we're going to combine it with the wonderful metaphorical images of tending, minding the store, tilling the garden, and above all, listening to the patient, to yourself, to what's needed to maintain the health of the care tending environment and everyone in it. So have you ever been in a position of providing or receiving care due to an illness? If so, reflect on what you took away from that experience, or what that experience took away from you, for that matter, and record your thoughts in your journal. If you haven't had such an experience, try to imagine how it might affect you. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in Unit 8.3, Care Tending a Healing Environment.